Okay. Welcome again, and thank you guys very, very much for joining us today. We want to give a special welcome, especially to those of you who are joining us today for the first time. My name is Dr. Dieter. I'm a board certified internist and a board certified pediatrician. And today, what I would like to do is to go through a science that shows now with overwhelming evidence that most of the modern day diseases are reversible. I would love for you to leave this talk today with information, knowing that you can reclaim your health again. So, now, let's get right into it. As I just said, there is now strong evidence that shows that most of the modern day diseases that we face today as a result of metabolic dysfunction. Metabolic dysfunction is just simply a fancy medical term that means energy shortage. And that energy shortage is driving most of the modern day diseases that we face today. That energy shortage in itself, it's coming from two entities, insulin resistance and microbiome dysfunction. These two entities, number one and number two, result in metabolic dysfunction. And that metabolic dysfunction then drives a chronic diseases. So we can link them directly to causing this. So what I would like to do is I would like to take insulin resistance, dissect it, show you how it causes the modern day diseases. And also, I would like to take microbiome dysfunction, what we call the dysbiosis, and also draw a line to show you how it causes the modern day diseases. What is insulin resistance? To be able to understand what insulin resistance is important to be able to understand what insulin does in the first place. First, a simple definition for insulin resistance is that is this that your insulin is not working properly. So for the purpose of this talk, anytime you hear me say insulin resistance, replace that with the layman term of insulin not working well. So uh, let's explain what insulin does, what insulin is supposed to do when it's working well. The job of insulin is to do this, to mobilize glucose out of the blood into the cell. You see, when we eat, the end product is the release of glucose into the blood. That glucose is supposed to end up in the cell. The job of insulin is to get that glucose out of the blood into the cell. In the cell, there is a special organelle called the mitochondria. The mitochondria is considered to be the energy factory of the cell, the powerhouse of the cell. So, what happens is that when insulin mobilizes the glucose into the cell, it's taken up by the mitochondria, and it now goes through a complex series of reactions in the mitochondria to produce an energy molecule called ATP. It's just simply energy. Now, every cell in the body requires energy to function. The simplest entity of the body is a cell. Cells group up to form tissues. Tissues group up to form organs. Organs, systems. Systems forms the whole man. So every single cell in the body requires energy to function. When a cell doesn't have the energy that it needs to function, it malfunctions. The simplest definition of a disease is a group of cells, tissues, organs, or system that has malfunctioned. And why has it malfunctioned? Because it doesn't have the energy it needs to function. And so insulin is so important because insulin sits at the center of producing energy. It is the most important hormone in man's existence. In fact, I call insulin hormone numero uno in terms of importante. No hormone trumps insulin because insulin sits central at making sure that the body has energy. And without energy, the cell cannot function. So the nickname I give insulin is the CEO of the body. Insulin dictates the smooth functioning and structure of the body because of the link between insulin and energy. Now, when we say that you have insulin resistance, it means that there is a breakdown in this process. And the breakdown in insulin mobilizing glucose out of the blood into the cell for energy to be made. Anywhere where this doesn't happen, we say you have insulin resistance. And the question to now ask is that how do you develop insulin resistance? Because once upon a time ago, God created you and I, and our insulin was working just perfectly. So there's a breakdown. If my car breaks down and I take it to the mechanic, the very first thing the mechanic does is to try to run a diagnostic to figure out where the breakdown occurred. So I want to show you how we go from insulin working well to insulin not working well, insulin resistance. And that develops in two ways. The very first way in which we develop insulin resistance is what I call too much fat, okay? Too much fat, chronic overnutrition causes the first step in insulin resistance. Now, a cell normally is supposed to look like this. Okay, when you consume way more calories than you're supposed to, the body takes those excess calories, converts those excess calories into fat. The body doesn't know where to put those excess calories. It lumps the excess calories into this cell. So I'll put it like this. So this cell, now instead of looking like this cell now looks something like this. And this cell that looks something like this is fat in the cell. The cell has become what I call fat laden because the excess calories that we have consumed, has now been converted into fat. We're consuming way more calories in today's day and age than our ancestors did. In fact, the data, there are statistics say that we're consuming about 33% more calories today than our ancestors did. It ends up getting into the cell. And that becomes a problem. Why? Because the job of insulin is to mobilize glucose out of the blood into the cell. When you have this cell that is normal, insulin comes and knocks on the door of this cell and tells the cell, hey, listen, I got glucose in the blood. I need you to take it up. This cell is more than happy to take it up. Okay. When it comes to this cell that is fat laden and knocks on the door, I got glucose in the blood, I need you to take it up. The cell tells insulin, I'm sorry, I don't have any room in the inn. If I were to let glucose in, glucose is not going to have any place to lay its head. I am filled with fat right here. Where do you expect me to put it? So what happens is that the cell doesn't open its doors to at the knocking of insulin. Glucose doesn't enter the cell, and so glucose cannot go through the electron transport chain to produce energy. You have a deficiency in energy, you have malfunction. So that's the first way in which you develop insulin resistance. Now, what happens is that because glucose cannot enter the cell, glucose now begins to accumulate in the blood. Okay. Glucose accumulates in the blood like this. Now, there is a one-to-one relationship between the concentration of glucose in the blood, and the amount of insulin produced by the pancreas. So this rise in glucose in the blood, because the glucose cannot enter the cell, causes the pancreas to produce too much insulin, more insulin to try to drive the glucose into the cell. Now, too much insulin is a bad thing. It's no bueno. Remember, I described insulin like the CEO of the body, dictating the smooth functioning and structure of the body. When insulin is running too much as a CEO, is a bad thing. Like when you have a high amount of insulin, it's like a CEO of a company that was normally level-headed that comes to work one day and he has lost it. A couple of screws have gone off in his head. This CEO who was normally level-headed starts bullying people or his employees, becomes a tyrant, comes to your desk. You're gonna do it my way or the highway. Very rude, demanding, making unreasonable demands to his employees. And, what happens is that a CEO who was normally that level headed like that, dictating the smooth running of his company, when he loses it and becomes tyrannical and a bully, his employees are going to lose respect for him. When his employees lose respect for him, what happens is that it makes it hard when you're an employee to do something for a superior that you do not respect. If I lose my respect for my boss, and my boss comes to me and says, "Hey, Dr. Dieter, I got this project I want you to get done in that has to get done in 60 days, and I've lost my respect for the boss." I'm reluctant when he brings that assignment to me, but I don't want to lose my job. So in my reluctance, I'm going to bring my mediocre game to that project. If I normally brought my A game to every project, because of loss of respect for my boss, my reluctance is going to cause me to bring my B plus or C game. You translate that to the cell. When insulin is running too much, right, too high, insulin is yelling at the cell in a high tone, being a bully on the playground, being tyrannical. The cell doesn't take kindly to that tyrannical tone of insulin. The cell loses its respect for insulin. And when the cell loses its respect for insulin, the cell becomes reluctant to do what insulin asks the cell to do. What's the number one thing that insulin asks the cell to do? Open your doors this wide so that I can let glucose in. In its reluctance now, when the cell hears that command of insulin, instead of opening its doors this wide, out of loss of respect, the cell opens its doors this wide. So a narrower door means less glucose comes into the cell, more glucose remains in the blood, accumulates in the blood. That more glucose that accumulates in the blood now is a trigger for the pancreas to produce even more insulin. And even more insulin is like going from fry pan to fire. Okay? It's like a boss who was crazy this level and raises his cuckoo-ness to this level. Translate, the employees lose even more respect for their boss and are even more reluctant to do what their boss asks them to do. You translate that to the cell. The cell loses even more respect for insulin, and the cell goes from having its doors year wide to now having its doors year wide. So you have this vicious cycle because of the cell losing respect for insulin. So that's how you develop insulin resistance. That's how your insulin gets to not working the way it was designed to work. Too much fat, too much insulin. Those two things. Now, when you have insulin resistance, then you have a deficiency of energy. That deficiency of energy now shows up as all these different diseases. Unfortunately, this slide is not large enough to be able to depict to us all the illnesses that come as a result of insulin resistance. I want to be clear because every now and then we get people who say, "Hey, doc, I attended your lecture and it seems like you were just talking about diabetes." No, I don't want you to hear insulin resistance and think about just diabetes. Insulin resistance is more than diabetes. Insulin resistance is the reason you have cancer, the reason you have polycystic ovarian syndrome, fatty liver disease, heart disease, high blood pressure, Alzheimer's disease. The brain is the most, let me talk about Alzheimer. The brain is one of the most energy hungry organs of the body. Even though the brain weighs only about 5 grams, the brain utilizes about 20% of the body's energy. About one quarter, 25% of the body's energy is the brain. And glucose is the source of energy for the brain. So when you are insulin resistant, this glucose is not available to the brain cells, and as a result, the critical systems in the brain fail. You have Alzheimer's disease. Uh, I cannot find a slide that is big enough to be able to encompass all the diseases that come as a result of insulin resistance. But again, I want to be clear that insulin resistance is not diabetes. Diabetes is just one of the bad fruits that comes as a result of insulin resistance. Obesity comes as a result of insulin resistance. When your insulin is high, it traps fat in the jail cell. Fat gets locked up in the jail cell. So now we have examined the first entity right here that results in our chronic diseases. The second thing I want us to examine is this second entity, microbiome dysfunction or dysbiosis. To be able to understand what microbiome dysfunction or dysbiosis, it's important to understand what the microbiome is. The microbiome is a group of about 30 to 100 trillion bacteria that live in our large intestine, and they perform a very important function. You see, when God created you and I, He created these organisms in the purposefully for us to live in a symbiotic relationship with them. Scratch my back, scratch yours. Quid quo pro, if you may say. We're supposed to provide for these organisms food and shelter, and they're supposed to perform these functions for us. I want to highlight some of the important functions of these bacteria. The first of which is to protect us from pathogenic bacteria. They protect the gut from pathogenic. Pathogenic just simply means disease causing. How do they do that? They do that by producing a very special short chain fatty acid, which helps to provide this function. And these short chain fatty acids, this is a microbiome, this organisms here, this bacteria. These short chain fatty acids are only produced by the biological activity of this bacteria. You cannot get these short chain fatty acids from consuming any natural foods or what have you. And they go and beef up the security in the gut. You see, the cells of our gut align together one to another like this. And where my fist meets, this is a cell, this is another cell. They come together, they form a wall. Where my fist meets it's this area here is called the tight junction, where the two cells meet together. This is an area of vulnerability in the integrity of the cell wall. Now, these short chain fatty acids act as a sealant or act as concrete or act as cement. They go and pour cement or concrete on this area of vulnerability to enforce it so that it's tight. If it's not tight and there's some looseness in there, bacteria can now seep in through the looseness or toxins seeping through the looseness into the blood. So the short chain fatty acids cause a reinforcement of that so that bacteria do not flow into the blood. That's how it protects us from disease causing bacteria. The other thing that I want to highlight is the microbiome helps to shape and regulate the immune system. When I first learned about this, I found this to be, I was very surprised. 70% of the body's immune system resides in the gut. 70%. The other 30% of our immune system resides in the bone marrow, the lymph nodes, the lymphatic. And the microbiome is responsible for training the immune system on an appropriate response. It trains the immune system to recognize what is a threat, recognize what is not a threat, and when it recognizes a threat, it advises the immune system on what kind of firepower to use to neutralize that threat. It looks like this. When the microbiome is healthy, it may recognize a threat and tell the immune system, you see that bacteria, he's a bad guy. But even though he's a threat, you could probably just take him out with a little stone. You don't need heavy firepower. And the immune system says, okay, roger that. The immune system does that. It could see another guy, and the microbiome sees another guy and taps the immune system and say, look at that guy right there. The immune system says, hey, what guy are you showing me? I can't see the guy. Say, look right there. The immune system still cannot see the guy, and the microbiome says, listen, the reason you cannot see that guy that I'm trying to point to you, that guy is in camouflage. That guy looks like the enemy, but he's not the enemy. You got to be careful. He looks like a threat, but he's not a threat. Do not fire at him. He is friend. He is not the enemy. That's what happens when the microbiome is healthy. It trains the immune system in a healthy way to recognize threat and deploy the right firepower. When your microbiome is not healthy, it does the opposite. It radicalizes the immune system. It causes the immune system to have a conception of shoot first, ask questions later. It causes the immune system to become hot tempered, what I call trigger happy, ready to pick a fight. And this is how it looks. And it causes the immune system to have an over exaggerated response, irrespective of the threat. It may look like this when the microbiome is not healthy and it sees the bacteria, it sees this bacteria, it tells the immune system, you see, that bacteria right there is a bad bacteria. You could probably take him out with a stone, but you know what? We've already established that he's a bad bacteria. He needs to die. Why use a stone when we could make a splash? Let's just drop a grenade in his backyard, a big boom. So for a bacteria that could have been easily neutralized with a simple stone, the microbiome has instructed the immune system to use a grenade. A grenade causes bigger collateral damage than using a precision weapon like a stone for a simple bacteria. More inflammation that causes more issues in the body. Now, the immune system, the microbiome may go further to do this to the immune system when it's unhealthy. It sees the guy in camouflage and it doesn't want to do any critical thinking to determine whether this guy in camouflage is a good guy or a bad guy. He just sees the guy in camouflage and he says, you know what? I don't got time to establish whether this is the enemy or friend. When the heat of the battle, his hot temperedness is just says, I'm just gonna blow his head off. I'm going to blow his head off. This guy in camouflage. We'll take him to the autopsy table later. If it turns out that this guy that was in camouflage that I blew his head off was the enemy, then good for me, I did a good job. If it turns out that it wasn't the enemy, oh well, I wasn't taking a chance. And what happens is that the microbiome now has radicalized the immune system. The immune system begins to attack people in camouflage indiscriminately, and you develop autoimmune diseases. Now, um, when we say now, those are the functions of the microbiome. Now, what do we mean when we say you have microbiome dysfunction or dysbiosis? You see, these organisms in the gut exist in a 50-50% proportion, 50% of which are what we call bad bacteria, and the other 50% of which are what we call good bacteria. We say you have microbiome dysfunction or dysbiosis when there is an imbalance in this proportion. The bad bacteria increase to maybe 70% and the good bacteria decrease to maybe 30%. What's responsible for this imbalance is food, the shortage of food. The food for the microbiome is fiber, a shortage of fiber, food, okay? We don't consume enough fiber, unfortunately. Now, when there is a shortage of food, it sets into motion survival of the fetus. Anytime there's survival of the fetus, what happens is that, people are scrambling to get what they can. Think about the times when we're in the heart of the pandemic. If you went to Costco or any grocery store, you'll be lucky to find toilet tissue on the shelf, or you'll be lucky to find milk, on the shelf. Those things were always gone. Survival of the fittest mentality. What happens when there is a shortage of fiber, because our foods are so processed? The bad bacteria, the stronger bacteria. So what they do is, in that survival of the fittest mode, they hoard the little fiber, the little food that is there to themselves. And then they now say, you know what? For us to have a hold, to keep a hold on the little food, let's go ahead and increase our army to keep a monopoly on this food, which causes them to go up at the expense of the bad bacteria. When that happens, we say you have dysbiosis. And when you have dysbiosis, it now causes a slew of chronic medical issues. A lot of this autoimmune disease, Hashimoto, lupus autoimmune disease, multiple sclerosis autoimmune disease, celiac autoimmune disease. That is the microbiome that has been radicalized to shoot indiscriminately, to be hot tempered. And another thing I want to highlight is that this slide is not exhaustive. There's so many illnesses that are also linked to dysbiosis that we cannot encompass, on this slide. But I want to highlight anxiety and depression because it's something I found very surprising equally when I learned about it. And if you find this surprising, let me explain the biology of how your gut is linked to anxiety and depression. There is a hormone called serotonin, which is produced which is what we call a happy hormone. This hormone maintains our mood. Did you know that 90% of this hormone, serotonin, is produced in the gut? The other 10% of it is produced in the central nervous system. If 90% of this hormone that is supposed to maintain our mood is produced in the gut, when the gut, the factory for this hormone, or the factory for the production of this hormone is not healthy, it cannot put out its product. And as a result, you have a significant decrease in that vital neurotransmitter or hormone. You have anxiety and depression. This slide here is what I call the metabolic sequence of inflammation. It shows you how insulin resistance and dysbiosis at the helm of the root cause causes metabolic dysfunction, energy shortage, which then causes injury, oxidative stress, and injury to the cell. An injured cell will always cry out to the immune system. The immune system will deploy an inflammatory response. But when it deploys that inflammatory response to the cell to help the cell, it's finding smoke in the cell, not fire. The fire actually started 2 houses ago that insulin resistance spread to metabolic dysfunction to the cell. So the immune system is not able to take care of the inflammation or take care of the problem. The inflammatory response that it deploys causes bystander injury to the cell, causing the cell again to cry out to the immune system, and it deploys another inflammatory response. While the ongoing core of the problem continues to happen and continues to trigger the immune system to bring about inflammation. So you're having a double whammy of inflammation. One, because the immune system is deploying an inflammatory response to the cell that is a failed response, causing bystander injury and the cell crying back to the immune system. The other, because the core of the problem is continuing to happen, triggering an inflammatory response. That chronic inflammation is like a chronic fire going on in you that is responsible for all the diseases and symptoms that we have. Now, there is now evidence that if you reverse these two things that sit at the helm of our modern day diseases, you could reverse the disease conditions. And I like to put it this way. If I'm driving in a car and that car runs out of gas, the car is going to stop. It has malfunctioned. That's the disease. It stops. It doesn't stop because of intrinsic failure of the engine. It stops because its fuel source, its energy source is gone. If I were to go to the nearest gas station and buy gas and walk back to my car on the side of the road and put gas back into that car automatically starts. I've ran out of gas 2 times and never once has it crossed my mind, when my car stopped after I ran out of gas, is, oh, is this car gonna start? Even the worry doesn't cross your mind at all. It's the same with the body. It's so simple but so profound. These diseases are the result of energy shortage. You ran out of gas. If you restore the energy shortage by addressing the root cause, just like that car starts again, your body begins to work again. Your body is very forgiving. It knows what it needs. You just need to gas it up. Now, I want to present to you a solution that does just this, helps to reverse the energy shortage, reverse the core of the problem. It's a solution that I've been using very successfully now as a physician with many of my patients. It's called the Feel Great System, and it is a nutraceutical product. It's a nutraceutical which helps to address the two core things that cause the modern day diseases. And this uses the science of intermittent fasting and fiber supplementation to reverse insulin resistance and dysbiosis. There are two things in the product. One of which is this product called Unimate, and the other is this product called Balance. If any of you guys here in the healthcare field, maybe you're a doctor, a nurse, a pharmacist, or what have you, you'll be surprised to know that both of these products are listed in the physician's desk reference. Let's talk about Unimate. What is it and how does it help to reverse insulin resistance? It is, excuse me, the Unimate is made from a plant called the yerba mate plant. And the plant is native to the South Americas. And this plant is very rich in a special phytonutrient called chlorogenic acid. Okay, chlorogenic acid. Chlorogenic acid has a property of lipolysis, a fancy medical term just to say fat burning. Okay. The other thing that chlorogenic acid does, it has a inherent property of stimulating GLP-1s, and helps, to quiet the hunger center of the brain, so can help you to fast. Okay. We're trying to use the science of intermittent fasting and fiber supplementation to reverse insulin resistance. We eat way too much in today's day and age. We're grazing all around. Our bodies were not meant to always be processing calories. Processing calories without giving your body a break will cause your body to burn out. In fact, the statistics say that we're consuming uh, we're consuming at least 33% more calories today. So imagine having to walk 33% over time every week. You're gonna burn out. So intermittent fasting is a very important thing to do to help give your body a break from the go, 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 go. And this helps you to be able to do that. So we're using the science of intermittent fasting and fiber supplementation to address this root cause. So the Unimate helps in lipolysis, and it helps to produce GLP-1s to help you to be able to fast without any issue seamlessly. Now, let's examine how the fat burning property of chlorogenic acid will help you in reversing insulin resistance. Remember, you developed insulin resistance by this fat laden cell. When you consume the Unimate, which helps you to be able to burn fat, lipolysis, This fat-laden cell now converts into looking like this. Okay, it's now free of it's now free of all the fat. Now that it's free of all the fat, the glucose that had accumulated in the blood, can now get into that cell and is now taken through the electron transport chain to produce energy. So you're reversing that just because of the fat burning property of this. Now, because this also helps you to be able to intermittently fast seamlessly. Intermittent fasting by itself causes the body's insulin levels to go down. And the Unamate helps you to fast without feeling hungry at all because of the GLP-1 property. When insulin levels go down, it's going to cause the body to switch from fat storage mode to fat burning mode. So you're having a double whammy effect of lipolysis that will then result in this. So you reverse insulin resistance by that way. The second thing is that when this cell now becomes free and the glucose gets into the cell, the concentration of glucose in the blood is going to drop. When the concentration of glucose in the blood drops, a message is sent to the pancreas to now produce a low amount of insulin because there's a one-to-one relationship between insulin production and glucose concentration and insulin. When that happens now, you now have a CEO, who was initially crazy, a bully and a tyrant, who comes to work one day and calls an in-service to his employees and say, I've been a jerk for the last 2 months. I'm very sorry. With a contrite heart, the CEO now apologizes to their boss. That's what to his employees. That's what happens when insulin goes from too much insulin to now low insulin. It's like that CEO now loses his craziness and goes back to earth. The employees, when they hear the apology from their boss, they are taken aback by the humility. And after that, forgive their boss and are now excited to do what the boss asked them to do. You translate that to the cell. When insulin is now running low, the cell now, can say, you know what, I can deal with that insulin guy. It's like that bully on the playground that comes to the kids and tells the kids, you know what? I'm sorry I've been a bully with a contrite heart. Please forgive me. Kids are so forgiving. The cell forgives insulin. And when the cell now forgives insulin, when insulin tells the cell, open your doors this wide so that I can let glucose in, the cell is happy to open its doors that wide. More glucose enters the cell that can go through the electron transport chain, reversing insulin resistance. So that's what the Unamate does, using those properties. The other thing is the second product, this product right here called Balance. Balance is just simply fiber. Fiber helps also to reverse insulin resistance, and it does it in the same way as Unamate in promoting lipolysis, which is just simply fat burning. So because of fiber, it's going to cause this cell to go to looking like this. This product is made from fiber taken from 7 different plants that has been merged together. Now, the other thing that fiber does in reversing insulin resistance is that fiber helps to decrease your glycemic index. Translation reduces your glucose level, your post-meal glucose level. And this is how I describe it. Fiber slows the transit of food through the GI tract. The slower food moves through the GI tract, the lesser your glucose spike. If you and I went to uh, 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 Italian restaurant to eat lasagna, and we both ordered the same plate of lasagna, right? And you ate your lasagna without fiber, your blood sugar is going to do this. And that spiking your blood sugar may be a blood sugar of 170. For me, I know a thing or two about fiber, and I know that this product is rich in fiber. So I consume the balance, and then I eat exactly the same plate of lasagna you had, exact quantity. My blood sugar is going to do this. And that peak of my blood sugar may be a blood sugar of 80. Why? Because the fiber has slowed the transit of of food through the digestive tract and has resulted in a lower release of glucose into the blood. The implications of that is when you produce a blood sugar of 170, your pancreas is going to produce a commensurate higher amount of insulin to deal with that blood sugar. So your pancreas may produce 20 units. For me, my pancreas is only going to produce a commensurate lower amount of insulin to deal with that blood sugar, maybe 5 units. I want you to think about 20 units of insulin as the crazy CEO, okay, that the employees do not respect. The cell doesn't take kindly to high insulin. I want you to think about 5 units of insulin as the humble CEO that the cells respect. You're more insulin sensitive when your insulin levels are low. The other thing is that the higher your glucose, your insulin produce, the more calories you're going to store from the food. Insulin is an anabolic hormone. Why is that important? Because you have made 20 units of insulin from that plate of lasagna, you may gain 950 calories. For me, because I've only made 5 units of insulin from that plate of lasagna, I may gain 300 calories. Big difference. Why is that? We may big implications also because the more calories you consume in excess of what the body needs, the body takes those excess calories and lumps it into this cell and causes this cell now to have no room for glucose. So that's fiber. The last thing is that that's how fiber helps to reverse or restore insulin resistance or push you towards insulin sensitivity. The last thing is that fiber helps to reverse dysbiosis. Fiber is food for the microbiome. Remember, we developed this shortage because we developed this imbalance, yeah, because of the shortage of food. So fiber is food for the microbiome. In our current day and age in America, a man is supposed to be consuming 38 grams of fiber a day. A woman is supposed to be consuming at least 25 grams. We're consuming an average of 10 to 12 grams of fiber a day. So, by consuming enough fiber, you restore the food that the microbiome requires and you reverse dysbiosis. So these two entities, powerful tools in helping to reverse the root cause of the problem. So I'll end by saying this that if you struggle with any chronic medical condition, chances are those chronic medical conditions are the result of insulin resistance or the result of dysbiosis or a combination. And there is good news. The Feel Great system, by using the science of intermittent fasting and fiber supplementation, can help you to reclaim your health again. Thank you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I think, let's see, stop sharing my screen. And I think Amory, Dr. B, has an input before you take it away.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, I
you
saw Dr.
can,
B's hand up. That would be great.
Hello, I'm Marie. So you get to see me somewhat today. I'm hiding in my children's study to see how I can see back here. So I mean, thank you so much, Dr. Tita. This is just wonderful. I thank you for introducing me to this great product. I'm excited about what it's going to do for a lot of people because my background, so I'm a board certified physician in preventive medicine, lifestyle medicine, but I have done a lot of other things too, including HIV care and right now dermatology, both general and cosmetic. So I'm learning a lot about how chronic inflammation affects every area of the skin and every area of the human body. Remember, your skin is your largest organ. It's the thing that separates you from the outside. And chronic inflammation also shows up on your skin. a lot of illnesses that we have on our skin, when we have to start treating it, we start treating it as an inflammatory disease. A lot of those things you need some steroid before we find other things that work for you. That inflammation is not just a one-stop shop. It affects everything. And Dr. Dieter said something very nice. It's a house on fire. When your house is on fire, it doesn't spare anything. It burns everything down. And when you have chronic inflammation, you basically burn everything down too. And so that's why when you treat chronic inflammation, you treat a lot of underlying health issues. There's a book by Dr. Dean Ornish. He practices out of California. He's actually one of the people we call the father of lifestyle medicine. It's called Undo It. The reason I bring this up is because this is an amazing supplement to help you get yourself back on track, but you also have to maintain. And I think I say that because the goal of this thing is to get you to win. It's not just to get you through the hoop, but to get you to keep winning. And the way to keep winning is that when you have been victorious, you want to maintain the victory. So you have to start making good choices that help to support what you have accomplished using get something, and then you don't work hard to preserve it. So we talked about the whole thing with adding gas to a car that runs out of gas. And the truth is that while it's important to add gas, you also have to remember what kind of gas are you adding. When you have a car, there are specifications on what you can use in a car. If you have a high-end car, let's say you have a Range Rover, or a Bentley, or a BMW, whatever, you cannot be using 85 gas on it. You have to use 93, because it affects the functionality and it affects the quality of the car and its ability to stay good for a long time. And we all know that if you keep putting the wrong kind of gasoline in your car, that car is not going to last long and it's not going to work the way it was designed to work. It's exactly the same thing with our bodies, because everything works on principles. The principles in life are true throughout the spectrum of life. Now, when we talk about chronic inflammation, I just want to paint a picture for you because I think this helps people understand even more that house on fire. This inflammation, it has a couple of things that were coined by Celsius, and they were all the things that we use in medicine to describe chronic inflammation. There's calor, there's dolor, there's rubor, there's tumor, and functional latio. So calor is heat. There's dolor, which is pain. If any of you know Spanish, that's how they say pain in Spanish too. But this is not Spanish. But there's dolor, there's rubor, which is redness, there's tumor, which is swelling, and then there's loss of function. And all of those things are tied to what happens when you have inflammation. Inflammation is good as long as it's limited. Once it becomes chronic, then you have all these things that are ongoing. So there's heat, because when you have inflammation, the body is basically recruiting its immune system cells to come and help repair something that is damaged, and when it comes there and it stays too long, then it starts causing damage in and of itself. And so it brings it comes along with blood and a lot of other things. The blood, when it comes closer to the skin surface, it comes with heat, and it also comes with redness, because the blood that flows through your veins, the blood, oxygenated blood, is bright red. And so you see the redness, you feel the warmth. That's why when people die, they get cold, because the metabolism stops and there's no more warmth coming from the body. So when we are alive and you have inflammation, blood is recruited to that area. And it comes along with a lot of goodies, with nutrients and with a lot of immune modulators, including things.
Hopefully she'll come right back.
Dr. B, we lost you.
People who have chronic pain, one of the things.
Oh.
All right. Dr. B, we lost you there for a little bit.
You might have to turn your video off just for a second while you talk. We just lost you right there, right at the very end.
Okay, so let's see. Should I? Where did you?
Okay.
We'll try again. Yeah, try again. Maybe they'll stick with us. Let's see.
Okay, are we good now?
Yeah.
All right. So with chronic pain, you have, on top of the thing that is causing the pain, you also have chronic inflammation. And so people that have issues with chronic pain, one of the things we always advise them is you need to control your inflammation. You need to bring your blood sugars down, because when you do that, you turn down the fire. So it reduces the general pain and swelling and heat in those areas. and it makes your other pain management modules much more effective. Um, Another thing, again, with the skin, we can always tell when you have issues with chronic inflammation and with elevated insulin levels. I know we talked about this before, but just to run about it, when people see this thick velvety thing on the skin, sometimes you can see things like tiny skin tags. Those usually come from the most common cause is insulin resistance. There are other things that can cause it, but the most common cause is insulin resistance. And a lot of times people think it's just skin, you're irritating your skin. What you really need to do is clean the inside of your body. And once that is taken care of, this thing that is a manifestation of chronic hyperinsulinemia is going to go away. And so when I see those things on patients, it's very common around the neck area, the inner elbows, the back of the legs, but sometimes you can even see it on the chest. If it gets really bad, you will see it all over the place. But generally, the folds of the skin, you will see it. And it's a sign of insulin resistance. And I always tell my patients, don't wait for your doctor to tell you, you have a problem, you need to work on it. And again, this helps with that. So I'm just putting it out there for those of you who see those things on your skin. Your body is screaming at you and telling you, I need some help. And then even with aging, for people who are concerned about looking good for a long time, aging is tied to chronic inflammation. When we are treating the skin, we look for ways to prevent chronic oxidative damage. We look for ways to use antioxidants. That's why vitamin C is so amazing on the skin. Niacinamide, all those things help with chronic inflammation or oxidative stress or damage to the skin cells. So again, that tells you how extensive the effect of hyperinsulinemia, which results in chronic inflammation, can affect you. It's the whole body. And so I think that this is an amazing thing to be able to have and to give people access to, because you are just on a winning streak if you can keep up with this and if you can do all the other things that we have brought to your attention. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Doctor. And then Dr. Dieter, there's also another hand up.
Yeah, could we hold that hand up, and I would like you to maybe show some before and after testimonial pictures, and then after that we'll take some questions from more people.
Okay, that sounds perfect. Let me show you some examples because I think this helps to illustrate, a picture is worth 1,000 words, helps you understand what it is that we're talking about. So the first person that I'm going to show is our speaker here, Dr. Dieter. The first picture that you have on the far side was before he discovered intermittent fasting, coming over from Cameroon, having the American diet. And then this is 5 years. The picture in the middle is 5 years of intermittent fasting and regular jogging. Then the picture in the pink jacket is when Dr. Dieter started using this Feel Great system that he's talking about tonight, these two products, and you can see how quickly he thinned out even though he was already fasting. This really works well. This is a good friend of ours, Dr. Kenny, came out of the hospital, had some really serious insulin resistance, was in the hospital for several months, came out of the hospital, started on this system. 35 days later, you can see how much his face changed. He looks, I mean, he looks younger. You can see how, his physique changed in just a short period of time, just a little bit over a month. Here you see that chronic inflammation Dr. B was just talking about, where they're, swollen, the puffy face, and in 60 days on the system, the inflammation is down. She looks younger. She feels better. Angelita was, you can see some of the difference just in her legs, but really for her, what she was struggling with was the depression, which Dr. Dieter was just talking about, how gut health mixed with brain health. So although her body changed, she, for the first time in 9 years, did not need to fulfill her depression medications, her prescription for that. She was finally free of that anxiety, depression weight on her shoulders. Dr. Marla is a good friend of mine. She was having long COVID symptoms long after COVID had passed. She was on a cruise here in this first picture, and she needed a cane to walk around, to walk up and down the stairs. She was unstable. Now, 3.5 months later, she was able to get all of her blood work normalized. This is she's been using this system for a little over a year now. She hikes around the Arizona mountains without the use of a cane at all. She literally, her life is like she's 20 years younger because insulin causes that aging when you bring it down. you see a huge change. This is a retired NFL football player. He lost 50 pounds in 50 days. He had psoriasis covering the back of his head, all over the back of his arms, and had for as long as he can remember. By the end of 2 months on the system, he had no psoriasis on his body at all. I want to show you, this is obviously not his body, but I want to show you an example of this woman, 63, Claudia, and she had had psoriasis since she was a teenager as well. And within about 4 or 5 months on the system, she also added some omega-3s. She, for the first time in her adult life, had cleared her skin up using the Filgray system. A complete different change in life. Here is, I think that's 4X clothing. Before this took some time, obviously, to lose this much weight, but this gentleman got his insulin resistance under control, got rid of the belly fat. Is I just saw this guy a couple of weeks ago in Las Vegas when I was there. He looks like a young man now, instead of an aging person. This is Cody. And what Cody, you can see Cody had a really significant weight loss. This is about 70 pounds. And he did this in about 6 months. And what you'll notice, sometimes when people get bariatric surgery, they have this hanging skin, and then they need a $10,000 surgery to get rid of the hanging skin. But when you lose weight through intermittent fasting, your body uses something called autophagy, and it actually eats these extra cells, these rogue cells, so that you don't end up with this hanging skin after you've lost all of this weight this way. People who are off, like A1C reversal, 12 down to 4.8, no more high blood pressure, IBS gone, acid reflux, migraines, insomnia. These things, this guy is 47 years old, and these are things he'd been struggling with since he was in his early 20s, all reversed, and he's on no more meds, no meds at all. This is A1C dropped from 14. This is Roe down into normal range. He normalized her weight and all of her numbers off all of meds. This is Paul. Paul is 81 years old, and he is off all of his blood sugar meds for his first time. He was on metformin. You can see the difference in his weight. He has a bunch of energy. He's running circles around his other friends that are his age at 81. My final story, Keith is a 54-year-old man. He was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes 25 years ago, and he had a foot ulcer, autoimmune, brain fog, very, very sick, on 108 units of insulin every day. He saw the system. He actually had a foot ulcer. I'm going to have you glance at, because it's hard to look at. This is a diabetic foot ulcer under treatment. He died a year ago, January. They were able to resuscitate him, bring him back to life. He went to a hyperbaric chamber, drove 45 minutes each way, and did this treatment. But this was as good as it got. He was still walking. He was on one of those rollers where you put your knee on it and have to push yourself around. He was on disability, medical leave, wasn't able to work. When he started this system with the yerba mate and the fiber, in a couple months, 3.5 months, his foot completely healed. He now has a pulse in this foot. He obviously didn't have to lose his foot, and really got his life back. More and more stories like this. This is what happened to me in about a little less than 2 months. Got rid of my belly fat and got
And
my
also,
numbers.
Amarie, you struggled with hypothyroidism due to
Mhm.
Hashimoto, which you have
Hashimoto's.
reversed and no longer have, correct?
That's right. All of my antibodies are completely normal. So I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's when my 17-year-old daughter was a little baby, and now I completely reversed Hashimoto's. My triglycerides were 247. I brought those down to 56. And just all the things like the hormonal, I'm 51 years old, was struggling with perimenopause. Those symptoms are resolved, got rid of belly fat, brain fog, and I just feel, yes, incredibly better. I feel like a new person on the system, and a lot younger, lots of energy. So those are some real life people that have used this. There's about 1 million people worldwide that have used this system. Anyone who uses this consistently gets results. The manufacturer gives a 90-day money back guarantee. So anyone who wants to try it, you try it at no risk to you, because you get a chance to have an experience with it and use it consistently. And the system absolutely will not let you down. We see a lot of repair. Dr. Dieter, because a lot of what I was dealing with too with Hashimoto's was food intolerance to almost everything. Almost everything I ate reacted. My face would swell up. I would get these puffy eyes. My stomach hurt most of the time. Almost every day I had some sort of digestive issues. And those were all resolved with healing my gut lining. So hopefully that helps with seeing some of the real life episodes. And I'll hand it back to you, Dr. Dieter.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for showing us those before and after and testimonials. Anastasi, is that you had your hand up? If you will unmute and ask your question.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Hi. I have two questions. My first question is, how long do we have to take this balance and unimate? Can we just like take it like a maybe something that we take all the time until we get the results we want, or we just have a time limit to take it? The second question is, if I am able to manage my appetite, because somebody like me, I have that, I'm able to eat from 12 to 4 p.m. That was my habit. So I'm asking if I can now use only balance because I can control my hunger.
Okay. Great two questions. I'll answer it like this. So Um, the very first question you ask, Anastasia, is a very common question that we always get almost every time on this call, and I answer it this way. This is this is food, and food is medicine. We have to, if we eat the right foods, we're not going to be sick. So this what is unique about this is this contains special phytonutrients that help to talk to those core issues of insulin resistance and dysbiosis. So 100 200 years ago, you yourself and myself, our great grandparents did not have these problems because their foods were 100% natural. So the foods they were taking naturally every day was their medicine. The same cannot be said of today. Our foods have become so processed. In fact, we're slowly poisoning ourselves. So let's say you had one of these issues, or you had somebody who had one of these health issues that they needed to address. If they use the feel great system and address that issue, maybe 3 months, 5 months, whatever and it resolved maybe their PCOS or their weight or their hypertension or what have you, then if they want to stop, they then have to commit to eating and living like our great grandparents did 200 years ago. That's hard to do. It's not impossible, but it's hard to do. So food is medicine. So I tell people, you can do this. You could take the feel great system for however months it reverses whatever metabolic issue. But if you stop, you have to commit to living like your great grandparents did in what you're going to eat and not slowly reintroduce poison back into your system. Most of the foods we eat today, unfortunately, are slow poisons to our gut, and to our metabolism. So that's how I answer it. So our ancestors ate in such a way that this was not a problem. The thing I love about this is, because of the difficulty of how it is to eat like our ancestors did, for the rest of your life. The thing I love about this is you don't need to change your diet while you're on this. Just consuming this every day. You could eat your puff puff and have no problem. You could eat your fish pie and have no problem. Those flour things, because this is going to upset, those unnatural things. So that's how I'll answer that question. So for me, knowing the metabolic implications of this, I have made a conscious decision that I'm going to consume this, going forward like my medicine. I have to eat every day. I may as well eat the right thing. So that's how I'll answer that first question. The second question about using just the balance and not the Unimate. What I will say is you can have some effect, but the great thing about both products is the synergy that you will get from them. So the Unimate as well as the balance work synergistically to. So I know I spoke about the Unimate a lot about insulin, but it also has an effect on your gut. Polyphenols, so chlorogenic acid has an effect on your gut. So they work to reinforce each other. So if you want to have the maximum benefit from them, it makes sense to take it in such a way that you enjoy the synergistic effect of them. I hope that answers your question.
Dr. Jeter,
Yeah,
may I throw something
Yeah,
in
thank
there
you.
real quick? If
please.
you go to the physician's desk reference and read more about it, I think it makes sense. And also, it explains that this yerba mate, the unimate, and the whole thing, it's based of the herb that has been in use in South America for hundreds of years. So families have been using it as a tea. I'll compare it to something, for example, maybe people from Cameroon will know something we call fever grass. Here they call it lemongrass, I think. People drink it. You don't have to have a fever to drink it. It's just a nice tea. It has a lot of these things have medicinal effects. You don't only have to take them when you're sick. Taking them on a regular basis just helps maintain your body. It helps keep your body in good functioning. So there's not a time frame that you should take it or not take it. It's actually up to you what you want to do, especially when you've accomplished the goals that you so desire.
Okay. Anastasia, I hope that answers your questions.
Yeah, that answers my question. Thank you so much.
I, I,
Unfortunately, I'll have another last one, please.
okay, just go for
Yeah,
it right now.
yeah, I am caffeine intolerant. So
Okay.
I didn't know, so I took the Unimate Cafe. I don't know whether the company will be able to do an exchange for me
Uh,
to
Okay.
give me the decaffeinated.
Um, I'm, have you started using it already, or is it still unopened?
I just opened one box. One is this one the one carton.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that because there's a logistic stuff. Maybe reach out to us. Let's try to hash that out. Let's try to keep this science based. We could deal with that logistic later. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. All right. Do we have any other questions?
I see some questions in the chat, Doctor.
Okay. Okay, let's see. You said I okay. Let's go to I'm gonna look at them. Thank you, Dr. Natasha. You answered one of the questions about any side effects from prolonged use of these products. Actually, no, I just add to what Dr. Natasha said. By the way, Dr. Natasha is a pediatrician, and no side effects because this is food. This is not medicine. This nutraceuticals made 100% from plants. So food sources. So no long-term side effects of taking them now. Elvin, you said you have a 6-year-old who was born with several food allergies. How will this fit? I love this question because, as physicians, we are always learning. There is sometimes we think we know something, and I'm going to answer this, and Dr. Natasha, who is a pediatrician, please feel free to raise your hand to add to that. Dr. Natasha and I are pediatricians. One of the things that surprised me so much, in this journey of learning about reversible things is how some diseases can be passed on from a mother to a child. What do I mean? We talk about the microbiome, right? When you talk about these allergies are the result of an unhealthy gut. And guess what? I inherited when I was born, when you were born, we all inherit the microbiome of our mother. So our mothers these days have unhealthy guts. Unhealthy guts lead to allergies. Our kids inherit our unhealthy gut and cause these allergies. You think that, oh, this kid was just born like that. It just came with birth. No. It came from the mother's unhealthy microbiome that the mother passed to the kid, and the kid now has that. The good news is that unhealthy microbiomes can be restored. So if you restore your child's unhealthy microbiome, those illnesses will go away. Did you know that asthma is the result of an unhealthy microbiome? All those things. I'll give you an example. Um, my my wife and I have never had any children with eczema. Never. We have 4 kids. The third kid we had, was born with eczema all over her body. And you know what was the difference with this pregnancy, with that pregnancy? My wife had lost her father during that time and was so stressed. And she ate so much candy and junk food during that time. That was the heaviest she was in that pregnancy, and had eaten so much junk and snack that affected her microbiome. That was passed on to my daughter. My daughter was born with eczema all over her, which has now resolved. I say that to say your kids' allergies, they're not, oh, they were just born with that. They came from an inherited microbiome that was, dysfunctional. And if you can restore your kids' microbiome, those allergies will go poof, will be gone. Um, Dr. Natasha, if you want to add something to that, you could unmute and just do so. If not, you can just say Roger that or whatever you.
Dr.
But that,
Jeter,
yes.
it's good you mentioned the whole, because sometimes everything is in cycles. Life is a cycle. Even high insulin levels, right? When you are a parent, and you're especially a mother, and when you're pregnant, whatever is happening to you, your kid could end up with it. With
Mhm.
hyperinsulinemia, when you have it, your child their insulin levels also go up. So with diabetic patients, when you have your baby, they have to watch that baby for low blood sugars, because they
Yeah.
have a whole lot more insulin than the normal baby, because their mother was just doing a whole lot of high sugars and high insulin too, and the baby just picked up on it. And so we have a lot of effect on the people that we carry, and on the life that we live. And so just pushing it out there, I mean, it's amazing when you look even at breast milk. You can literally see the color of the food you ate in it. When you eat a lot of greens, you see the breast milk has a green tint. When you eat a lot of orange foods, you see the breast milk has that orange tint. So our bodies they directly reflect what we put in them. They behave in the way that we treat them. Even your immune system. There's a physician in Florida. I don't know if he's still.
We lost you, Dr. B. Okay, we lost Dr. B. Roxanne, I'm going to take your question. But
I just, sorry, Dr. Deer, I'm in the clinic, but I just wanted to
okay.
piggyback everything you just said. Absolutely. I had no idea about your daughter, but yes, I just actually told a parent that I'm in the clinic about their child that has bad eczema, and everything starts in the gut. And yes, there is a mitochondrial deliverance from mitochondrial DNA from mom to child. And so the gut health of a child usually results in a lot of skin infections, a lot of autoimmune diseases, even asthma and allergies. And so for children, most kids, unfortunately, their gut health could use some help, some aid. And so for kids, this is perfectly safe, especially the fiber that has absolutely no stimulants in it at all. But for children and pregnant women and nursing mothers, they do have the option of the decaffeinated version. So
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Natasha. I appreciate you weighing in on that. Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's Roxanne, Roxanne, I'm going to take your question, and then after that I'll go back to the chat and where we left off, finish off with some other questions in the chat. Go ahead, Roxanne, you can unmute and then I'll lower your hand. All right, Roxanne, could you unmute and ask your question? Roxanne Gua. Okay, maybe all right, we'll take another question and we'll circle back with Roxanne later. I think the other question was um let's see. What are the costs of these products, Dr. Ernestine asked. So the product costs $159 a month on a subscription. If you don't want to do a subscription and you want to do a one-time buy, it costs $169. The good thing about the subscription is that if you do a subscription, you could cancel at any time, and the company that makes the product doesn't charge you a shipping price. The other question is, does it help with sleep apnea? Absolutely it does. Ernesto, thank you for your question. We actually have several people. There are so many stories of people who have sleep apnea, who have their sleep apnea reversed. We may even have Dr. Festus, who may be on here, who suffered from sleep apnea for 12 years, and he was able to reverse his sleep apnea. So yes, this is effective and helps with sleep apnea. I don't know, Dr. Festus, are you on? If you're on, you can just say,
He is on. I think the question is if he'll be able to unmute, but he is on the call.
Okay, I think he may just have unmuted. Okay, Dr. Festus, let's highlight you. Please take that question on sleep apnea. Dr. Festus is a pharmacist and he dealt with sleep apnea for 12 years. Tell us what this did for your sleep apnea. Can you unmute, sir? For some reason, we can't hear you.
Yeah, it looks like he's unmuted, but for some reason the sound isn't coming in. It could just be like if he has headphones connected.
Okay, do you have headphones on? If you have headphones, if you take them off and try to, we can't hear you. Okay. Unfortunately, Dr.
I
Festus,
think maybe Dr. Dieter, if you tell Dr. Festus
yeah,
story.
yeah. So Ernesto, Dr. Festus suffered from Dr. Festus. I'm sorry, since we can't hear you, I'll steal your thunder. Dr. Festus suffered from sleep apnea for 12 years, and when I first told Dr. Festus about this product, I spoke specifically to his sleep apnea, which I knew he suffered from. So he started taking this, to really see whether it was going to help his sleep apnea. And I think he said within 2 months of being on it, he realized that he was able to go to bed without snoring, without waking up, without getting tired, and decided to stop using his sleep apnea oral appliance device. And it's been maybe about 7 months now. He has not had to use his sleep apnea device and has not had the issues with snoring and tiredness and tingling and headaches and what have you that he had. And It's now a thing of the past for him. So that was his story, and there's several other people who have had similar effects. Because how this helps with sleep apnea is that insulin resistance causes hypertrophy of the airway. Insulin is a growth hormone. When the levels of insulin are high, it causes things to grow. It causes the airway to grow and collapse on itself and causes that obstruction. When you bring down insulin resistance, that hypertrophy, that growth of the airway now shrinks down and the problem is resolved. Let's see what other questions are there.
And one of the things too I really like about Dr. Festa's story is he had a picture there up. He was never heavy. So he was not he was not struggling
Yes,
with obesity at all. And so people
yes.
think if you lose weight, then your if someone just loses weight, their sleep apnea will go away. Dr. Festus looks like Dr. Dieter looks right now. But he still was really struggling with snoring. And we use this system, he doesn't have a weight loss story. He didn't have any weight to lose, but the sleep apnea was still resolved.
Yeah. The question about is this FDA approved? So Amory, could you answer the first part of when did these products come into the market? Because you have a good sense better than I of how long these products have been, and then I'll answer the FDA approval one.
Yes. The balance, the fiber was co-developed by UC Davis Food and Science Center and Rexall Drugs. It was released to the market in 1988. It was under a different name, Bios Life. This has been an evolution of the product since then, but it has been used. It's been 1 million users around the world have used it. And then the yerba mate Unimate, the patent was purchased by the company in like 2017. And it was around before that in like a slightly different form. It was in a gel form used before that. So these have been around for an extended period of time. This is it's not a new startup company. It has roots from the late 80s. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah. And now the FDA approval stuff, this is a nutraceutical, and nutraceuticals do not need FDA approval. Nutraceuticals and supplements do not need FDA approval. Just like something like vitamin D that you will find on the shelf in Walmart, it doesn't need FDA approval. This doesn't. So this is not approved by the FDA because it doesn't have a requirement to be approved. In the same way as supplements like vitamin D, do not have a requirement to be approved. The question of where can you get these products, they are available to purchase from multiple resources, wondering where you could buy them at the most reasonable price. This is Nindi Gupta who asked this question. Somebody invited you to this chat, to this Zoom today. Whoever invited you to this Zoom today can give you a referral link from which you could use to buy the product at the discount price of $159 for subscription or $169 for a one-time buy. So get back with whoever invited you. That's the best way to get the product. Sorry, Maria, I didn't see that you had answered that
Oh
there.
yeah, no, that's okay. No,
Okay.
that's great.
Yeah.
And then how long can these products be taken? So they're safe in the same way that you'd say, how long is it okay to drink green tea? Forever. You can drink green tea forever. This
Yeah.
is a plant. It's yerba mate. It's safe to use.
Yeah.
It's safe to use forever.
Yeah, I like saying this is food, and you can ask that question, how long should one eat food? I mean, it's food that your body needs, food that is medicinal to your body. So the same way you will answer that question is that. So how about a child who is 12 years with ADHD? It could be used for children who are 12 years old. And guess what? There's now research that shows that one of the big driving things behind ADHD is there's two things: insulin resistance and gut dysbiosis. In the gut, there are also hormones like dopamine that are produced in the gut. When we have an unhealthy gut, just as serotonin helps to maintain mood, dopamine and the other neurotransmitters that help with attention and this are impaired when your gut is unhealthy. Insulin resistance also drives that. We actually have stories of children whose ADHD has been reversed, grades have improved by being on this.
Can I ask my question now?
Okay, Roxanne, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, my name is Roxanne, and I'm very impressed with the presentation today. My sister just asked me to join because I have a wellness clinic. I'm a nurse practitioner, and I recently got interested in functional medicine, and this was like what I'm just looking for. And I'm trying to find out what do I need to do to get more information because I need to have this for my patients, and I need to know more about it. So she also I think somebody just sent her the link and then she bought it once, but she told me, why don't you get on this call and see? You might want to order from these people rather than go through the other company.
Who is your sister?
Very, very interested. Percilia Munge. She's on my,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
So Priscilla Munge. Okay. What I'll say you do, I would like to give you some more information and what have you. Um, what I will say you do is, who invited Priscilla? Priscilla, if you're on here, who invited you to today?
Yes,
Um,
Dr. Dieter, I was invited by my friend in Maryland, Florence Tata.
Okay, wonderful. Florence is linked to me.
Yeah.
So we'll solve this problem. Roxanne and Pasilia, both of you, you want to know more information.
Yes.
Florence Tata has my number. I'm the link. I can give you everything you need to know. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you very
Um,
Thank
much.
you.
no
Thanks.
problem. No problem. Um, do we have any testimonies of individuals who have fibroids who have experienced improvement after using the product?
God, and I have
I,
fibroids.
yeah, I do not know of testimonies, but Anne-Marie, do you?
So I have had, some like endometrial. Are we talking about like women?
Just fibroids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so endometriosis, people, Trent's wife reversed endometriosis. She had talked about having some, fibroids. We see a lot of times when people, resolve their insulin resistance, all of those cysts, fibroids, all of those things shrink or go down as inflammation is. But I don't have any specific, I can't think of any specific example where someone said that they had a fibroid and they don't have it anymore because they use the
Yeah.
system.
Yeah, we do not have that. But what I know about the mechanism by which, we have fibroids is that there is a direct link to insulin resistance and fibroids. Fibroids don't just show up randomly. A hormonal imbalance from insulin resistance is the biggest driver. When your body becomes insulin resistant and is making more insulin, that insulin keeps your blood sugar high. That insulin pushes your estrogen levels to go high. And when you have high circulating levels of estrogen, that signals tissues, fibroid tissues to grow. Fibroids are what we call estrogen dominant. Estrogen causes them to grow. So high insulin levels, act like, estrogen like, or raise the body's level of estrogen. And when it raises the body's level of estrogen, fibroids that love estrogen are now going to be, you're now predisposed, or the propensity now for you to have that is high because, fibroids are estrogen sensitive. And And insulin resistance causes you to have elevated estrogen level. Insulin resistance causes an estrogen dominance. So it makes sense that when you bring down the insulin resistance, you reverse the estrogen dominance, you take away the driver of the fibroid tissue growing. That's why you often see fibroids in people who are overweight or PCOS or have prediabetes or diabetes or other inflammatory things. It is linked. You fix that root cause, even though we do not have. I do not know of somebody, but specifically with that testimony, the biology, the physiology, you fix that root cause, you will see an improvement in it. All right. Have we answered all the questions, or are there a few more questions in the chat that we need to? Do we have this is Lovette. Let's see. Thank you for that. I still have a
Do you see the perimenopause? Yeah. So we have many, 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 many women in this age group because insulin resistance, many are this age, and we're seeing relief from perimenopause symptoms. That means night sweats, brain fog, this overall like anxiety that you have as you go into menopause, perimenopause. People are seeing relief from that. We have learned about intermittent fasting for women may be slightly different than it is for men. And we have a book that we really like by Dr. Mindy Peltz, Fast Like a Girl, that helps us fast with our cycle. And she talks about the different phases of life that we're in and how to adjust our fasting schedule. But across the board, the perimenopause women are all saying, oh my gosh, they feel so much better. That's including me. So I'm 50, 51. Um, night and day difference. Feels so much better.
Okay, there was a question that I want to take up from Lovette. Thank you all for your answers, but I still have a worry, as I noticed in most of the testimonies, weight loss being the most common thing from all the consumers. Now, with the prolonged use of these products, are there no risk of getting asthenia? I'm sure you're talking about muscle loss, underweight, etc. Please, I just want to be very sure, clear on this. Okay. Thank you for that question. I wish I had shown you this slide, but I would comment this. Um, One of the common things of insulin resistance, when your insulin levels are high, you're gonna lock up fat in the jail cell. So one of the common things of insulin resistance is weight gain. It doesn't mean that everybody who has insulin resistance has weight to lose. So when you start reversing insulin resistance, in addition to all the other benefits, if you have extra weight on you, once your insulin levels go low, that fat that had been locked up in the jail by insulin is now released from jail. You're not going to continue to lose weight. I'll give you an example of me. I lost 14 pounds in 2 months. I have not lost a single pound since then. I've been on the product for 7 months. So when you reorder your insulin levels, your body is so smart. It knows what weight it needs, what weight it doesn't. When you reorder your insulin levels, your body is going to get to the weight that you are supposed to be and stay there. You don't continue to lose weight. Now, in regards to the asthenia, the muscle loss, this doesn't cause muscle loss. It causes the opposite. Insulin resistance causes you not to be able to build muscle. All right. When you start restoring insulin sensitivity, the opposite happens. You build muscle. So this product doesn't cause, muscle loss. It actually helps you as you reverse your insulin resistance. Your muscles become more sensitive, hypertrophy, not muscle loss. I hope that answers that question. Okay. Can it help with gastritis? Yeah, Dr. Natasha answered that question. Thank you. Somebody asked, when taking the product, can you still take alcohol? And Dr. Natasha, thank you for answering that. The answer is yes. Okay. I want to OE. You have a question in the chat, and you also have your hand up. I'm going to answer your question in the chat, or I'll just let you. If that's the same question that you're going to ask, you can just unmute and ask.
Yes, good evening. Yeah, it's the same question. If you can
Okay.
kindly answer it, that would be great. Thank you.
Yes. So what I will say is that um, they there are 5 types of cancers that are related to insulin resistance. Okay, 5 cancers that are very commonly caused by insulin resistance: pancreatic cancer, colon cancer, prostate cancer, breast cancer, liver cancer. Those 5 cancers, the most common cause of them are due to insulin resistance. Now, it depends on how progressive your cancer is. Okay. If you have pancreatic cancer and you're at the terminal stage, very, very advanced, you are way behind the 8 ball, this may not, cure it. Now, if you have very early cancer, very early, it has not progressed to any places, not metastatic. The great thing is that the cancer's food is glucose, and insulin is driving it to fuel it and fuel it. If you starve any cell, if you starve any living creature of its food for long, it's going to die. So translate that to the cancer. Glucose and insulin drives cancer growth. So when you decrease that, you stand a chance. I don't want to be bullish in my answer, but to say that when you decrease insulin resistance or keep insulin resistance in check, you have deprived the cancer of what it needs to grow. And the best way that I can put it, to be conservative, you give yourself a big fighting chance for survival. And in terms of the cure, I don't want to use the word cure because it depends on how advanced you are in your cancer. But you depriving it of its food source, you increase your survival outcome, improves your chances. That's as best as I will answer that.
Thank you so much for that answer, Doc.
You're welcome. Okay, Catherine says, hi, my name is Catherine. I would like to get more information. So get with Margaret, who invited you, and she can guide you through whatever information you would like to get. Okay, I'm trying to see. We're going to take a few more questions in the chat and then we'll wrap up. I'm just trying to look at the last few questions. Is prostatitis linked to insulin resistance? Yes. There is, it increases, thank you, Dr. Natasha. It increases your risk, of having that bacterial infection, insulin resistance. Think about this, just like UTIs and yeast infections, are to females, prostatitis to males. Those 2 things are driven by the environment of insulin resistance and sugar. When you have insulin resistance, you create a friendly, inviting environment to yeast, causing you to have yeast infection for women or UTI for women, and the same thing prostatitis for men. All right. All right, Doctor. All right, Amory. Thank you so much for helping us with this.
Yeah, thank you.
Amory has to jump off. I just want to highlight one quickly for those of you guys, Amory, before you jump off. For those of you guys who are in the DMV area, Amory is part of our team and is going to be visiting the DMV area to meet with some of you guys. So if you're in the DMV area, please make arrangements tomorrow to be able to meet with her. We are building a formidable team to try to help as many people take their health back. We're always needing people to join our team. You know, Amory is a heavy hitter in our team who has been helping us grow this team to impact the lives of as many people. So please, I encourage you, those of you in the DMV area, to make it a point tomorrow to be able to meet with her, to learn some insights on how we can continue to grow and impact people's lives. Amory, do you want to say one last parting thing
Yeah,
before you go?
I'm really looking forward to, so I'll be there tomorrow afternoon for through the evening. And then I fly back out on Tuesday morning, but really looking to help light a fire in some of these areas with growth. I've been in this business about 3 years. I was able to walk off of my job as a chemical engineer. It was about a $250,000 salary. I've been able to quadruple that in the last 3 years. And each night I get to go to bed knowing that I help save lives. So I showed you the pictures of Keith's foot ulcer. This afternoon we did a event in my office in Huntsville, Alabama, where we got to talk to people who died. Same kind of story. They died, they were brought back to life, they were in ICU, and they were able to recover their health using this protocol and modifying their lifestyle in just some really basic ways. 46 years old seems to be the common age for when people really see their health go south. And we're able to help that group of people to go live on and have a healthy life moving forward. Thank you. And so they're asking for the address and of where we're going to be at.
Okay.
So I can I'll grab that.
Okay.
Writing me and
Okay.
get that information to you.
All right. Wonderful. I want to take the very last question on is there any experience with these products helping those with side problems caused by toxoplasmosis? The answer is no. We don't we don't have I don't know of any specific testimonies to that. So no. All right, you're putting that in the chat.
Yep. So I got two phone numbers, and
Okay.
I'll just reach out to them privately if that's okay with
Okay.
the address that we're at.
Wonderful, wonderful, great.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Marie.
Thank you. All right,
Yeah.
good night.
All right. So we're going to wrap up the questionings now. I want to thank you guys. Thank you, Dr. Natasha, for answering that last question. I want to thank you guys very much for sharing your evening with us, for being here. If you were on here today for the first time and you heard this science and it was very intriguing and interesting to you, and you would like to get this product for yourself or for family member, please get back with whoever invited you to the call. They could make that happen. If you listen to this and you said, oh man, I wish my brother Ben was here to have heard this. He's dealing with all this stuff. Or I wish my friend, Christopher was on here to have heard this. This could help his diabetes or what have you. The great thing is that we do these 2 times. The great thing is we do these 2 times a week, on Sunday and Monday. We're going to be doing this exact same call tomorrow. So the exact same link, you could invite people who you wish could have heard this to hear this. And lastly, we are always looking for people to join our team. there's not enough of us shouting, at the top of the mountain that these diseases are reversible. You don't need to be a doctor, you don't need to be a nurse, you don't need to have any medical training. Amory, worked in the defense part of the federal government for all these years, and she's on our team and has been doing a formidable job for 3 years now, helping people take back their life. Somebody asked the question, why have we not heard about these products? Or how long have these products been out? It's interesting that as long as these products have been out, only about 600,000 people in the whole of North America are aware of it. The others, North America's population is 600 million. So imagine how many people are living with illnesses that they do not know can be reversed. So we're always looking for people to join our team, to add your voice, to be one of those people who can help your community to be able to take their lives back, take their health back. So if this resonates with you and you would like to be a part of the team, please get with whoever invited you, and we will guide you and show you how. Dr. Natasha said she had one last question. Any other last minute question? 9:50. Dr. Natasha, no, I don't think. I don't think any other last minute questions. We're just wrapping up here. Thank you so much, Dr. Natasha, for. Oh, go ahead.
I put a question there, but I didn't get an answer.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
About diabetes wound.
Okay, could you just say the question because I didn't see it. I'm sorry.
I want to know more about diabetes wound.
Yeah, so this helps with healing diabetic wounds. Why? Because it restores the hormonal balance and increases blood flow to the tissues that resolves the wound. When you have insulin resistance, it impairs blood flow to vital tissues. When you have a deficiency of blood flow to a tissue, nutrients that have to be delivered to that tissue to cause it to heal cannot be delivered. Insulin resistance restores the appropriate nutrient delivery by restoring appropriate blood flow to that tissue. That's a primary way in which a reversal of insulin resistance, that's a primary way in which it enforces wound healing. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So thank you guys very, very much. Dr. Natasha, thank you for letting me know on that last question. I missed that. But if you would love to be part of our team, please get with whoever invited you to this call, and they can give you information of how you can become part of our team. We're always looking for people to help us take that message to people that they could reclaim their health again. And again, if you are interested in the recording of this video of this science call, so you can share it with whoever you care about, with whoever invited you, we can get you a recording. Thank you and good night. Look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Bye.
Bye-bye.